Good morning, Wolves fans. Welcome back to another video. An interesting one today, to be fair. Not one I was expecting to make on a Monday morning, to be completely honest. I'm still away at the moment, as you could probably tell. But I thought I had to do a video on this one, really. It feels like sort of the day after the night before, almost. An absolute disaster of a weekend once again for Wolves. Another defeat, still at the foot of the table. 3 losses against the newly promoted sides. Things really aren't looking too good for Wolves at the moment. We saw tempers on and off the pitch sort of bubble over. Vitor and Jürgen Strand-Larsen, I've seen a video of Jose Sarr sort of talk to fans outside the ground as well. So things aren't looking great. And one of the main issues and reasons for that is Fosun and their ownership of this football club. But, excuse me, the early hours of this morning, there was an article off The Athletic talking about Wolves who have received an offer from John Textor in the last week or so to purchase the club. I'll talk in this video a little bit more about John Textor and who he is and why you may know of his name. The offer in question, $200 million in cash, $350 million worth of shares, works out in pounds sterling, the overall package of just over £400 million. If I'm not mistaken, I think Fosun would probably value Wolves at between sort of 400 to 450 million pounds cash. So when you've got shares and things involved, I think this overall package probably is still a little distance away from what Fosun would want. At the moment, it's said that it's thought that the offer would be rejected, or this offer on the table at the moment is going to be rejected. Fosun aren't interested in taking shares. They only really at the moment want to sell a minority share in the club or stake in the club, which I'm sure most Wolves fans want a full sale. We need a reset, we need a restart. However, frustratingly, with us being at the foot of the table, we're not exactly an attractive proposition at the moment for businessmen or consortium groups, which is a shame at the moment. But I'll talk a little bit more about John Textor. He owns and heads up the EFG, which is the Eagle Football Group. It's a multi-club group that he's involved with, and he now wants an English-based team to replace Crystal Palace, who he cut ties with in the summer. If you remember, in the summer there was a big debacle in regards to Crystal Palace because John Textor had shares with Palace but also with Lyon, and they were both ended up qualifying for the same competition. Unfortunately, it ended up with Crystal Palace being demoted to the Conference League, and John Textor obviously cut his ties with Palace. He also owns stakes in Brazilian club Botafogo, French club Lyon, who I've just mentioned, and the Belgian club RWDM Brussels. And his plan would be to obviously get an English club, rejuvenate this Eagle group, and have this sort of Eagle 2.0 then on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, it's thought that John Textor likes Wolves because obviously their long-standing policy of recruiting and signing Portuguese players. It should make things a lot easier for him in regards to player trading and so on, obviously with his ownership in Botafogo. You may remember his name. He was involved in the debacle with João Gomes. When we signed João Gomes, thankfully João stuck to his word and signed for us in the end. But John Textor wanted him at Lyon, and he was so desperate he went and met up with the player and so on. But like I said, João thankfully stuck to his word and ended up joining Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, it's also thought a championship club at the moment may seem more likely for John Textor. Obviously, you can laugh and joke that we may well be a championship club sooner rather than later. 5 clubs that he's looked at: Charlton, Derby, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday and Watford. All decent sized clubs, all with previous Premier League experience obviously as well. So I think they would be very intriguing investments for John Textor. But I think the issue for Fosun is that if Wolves were to go down, the value of the club would completely plummet. And I don't know, it's a real weird situation for the club at the moment. But very interestingly, there were reports yesterday that there was a huge amount of Fosun delegates. I say huge, but over 10 Fosun delegates at Molineux yesterday. I thought maybe that was something to do with Vitor Pereira's situation or position at the club. Maybe we need to look a little bit deeper and a little bit more into that as well. And I mentioned about John Textor because I think this Wolves offer is probably just the tip of the iceberg for him. There's so much else underneath the surface to him, which I think we need to be aware of. And maybe if I was being extremely fussy, pre-Fosun as well. I could probably dig out loads of things about Fosun that have been going on or were going on. But for John Textor, it is a little bit of a mess as we speak right now. I'll try and summarise it as much as I can. But Ayres Management, a group that he's been working with, lent him a substantial amount of money to help him buy Lyon back in 2022. There's still arguments going on about that because he still hasn't paid them back the full amount that he owes. There's discussions between those two parties on how or if they can continue working together. There's still disagreements with another one of the EFG's shareholders, Iconic Sports Eagle Investment. That's over money, of course. There's a row at the moment which has gone to the Court of Arbitration for Sports due to instalments that one of his clubs, Botafogo, owe when they signed Thiago Almada from Atlanta United. Almada now plays for Atletico Madrid, but it's thought there were some instalments that John Textor took objection to, and it's a whole thing with the MLS now as well. So that's going on at the moment. Bruno Lage is a name obviously we're all familiar with. He's got legal action currently against John Textor too. When Bruno Lage was appointed as the manager of Botafogo, Bruno Lage was promised the opportunity to manage one of Textor's other clubs if the opportunity came up. That was obviously Crystal Palace and Lyon. The opportunity and the vacancies have come up for those. And obviously Bruno Lage never got the opportunity to look at those jobs. So there are still more that I haven't mentioned, but I've tried to sort of summarise that as much as I can. But yes, you're getting a new owner, but there's a lot of baggage with that as well. And we posted it out on social media about 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning. A lot of Crystal Palace fans jumping on it saying, yeah, you probably don't want to get involved with this guy. But what it can do, even if things aren't maybe as serious or maybe aren't as advanced as we hope in regards to a sale, what I'm hoping for this is that almost it can start some sort of domino effect. This gets publicised a little bit. People realise that maybe there is an opportunity to invest in Wolverhampton Wanderers and maybe we can finally get a sale and end this really difficult and tricky period that we're in with our ownership at the moment. And yeah, it's for Fosun, you know, they gave us some real special memories and positive moments at the start, but they've sort of thrown that all away with how they've treated, you know, portions of this fan base and how they've treated the football club and the playing squad in general over the last few years. It's really frustrating and quite difficult at times to watch how much we sort of declined as a club when we really had some great momentum going forward. But that is all. Very interesting developments. So like I said, I'll try and keep you guys as up to date as I can if there is any more advancements on this. But like I said, the opening offer from John Textor of $200 million plus $350 million in shares, so a $550 million package. It's thought that it's going to be rejected. The Athletic asked both parties, Fosun and John Textor, for comment. They didn't get a comment back, as you would expect. But let's see if something else comes to fruition over the next, couple of days, couple of hours, couple of weeks, who knows. But as always, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.